First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for banning my former mother-in-law from my house because she keeps showing up and letting herself in? My former mother-in-law is 52 years old and I am 32 years old. Back when I was 23, I got my then-girlfriend pregnant. We married soon after and she gave birth to our little girl. 2 years after, my wife got extremely sick and passed soon after, leaving me with our daughter. I decided to move several states away back to my own parents, as I work a lot and my parents volunteered to help me with my daughter. This went on for a while until I made a good promotion and had enough saved up to get my own house half an hour away from my parents. And since then, watching my daughter during the day while I'm at work is split between the nanny I hired and my parents. Before you think I'm taking advantage, my parents insist on watching her. My daughter is 8 now in case you wonder, and I generally work 8 to 6. My former mother-in-law decided to move to the town I live because she wants to be close to her granddaughter/my daughter. I initially had no issue with this. After all, my wife was her only child and my daughter her only grandchild. I only started having an issue when she actually moved. Since she moved here, she was at my house pretty much all day, including when I got home after work and the weekends. She would even be there when my daughter was at school and no one was home to clean. After having multiple conversations and arguments with her where I stated I was of the opinion her behavior was inappropriate and she was crossing boundaries, she finally toned it down for a while. However, slip-ups were and are common. Last week was the last straw for me. Since the past year and a half, I have started dating again and met a woman. However, due to Corona, we have not been able to spend much time together. And with everything opening up here, I invited her over after asking my parents to watch my daughter. When we were fooling around on a couch, my ex-mother-in-law let herself in, of course without calling, knocking or asking, and proceeded to lose her mind and accused me of cheating and disrespecting my deceased wife. I finally had enough. I went over, snatched my key from her, forced her out of my home and told her she's no longer welcome in my house. She really has no one else, and several people including my parents have weighed in asking me to change my mind. I am not sure if I'm the a-hole here. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole because of 3 main reasons. 1. This is your house. 2. This is your kid. 3. This is your life. You lost your wife. I'm genuinely sorry for your loss. You grieved. You accepted your loss and then you moved on. You're not cheating on anyone, and you're well within your right to not allow her into your property. Keep her away from your kid. Her reaction tells me that she'll try and push her mindset of you cheating onto your daughter. Just remember that you are the parent and that you have your own life. Am I doing the math right here? Married at 23, widowed at 25, now 32? So his wife has been gone 7 years. Surely that's more than enough time to start moving on? Or does the mother expect a lifelong celibacy? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You've warned her multiple times. If she wants to see her grandchild, she should call you and ask either to come over or take your daughter out somewhere. I would not give the keys back. With the grandmother being pissed off at OP, I wouldn't recommend supervised visits at the moment. Not the a-hole. Why does this woman have a key/access code to your home? She's 100% the a-hole. Good locks make good neighbors. I wouldn't recommend giving anyone a key who doesn't live in your house, unless you're going to be gone except one person whom you can trust to not do this, like your parents or a friend. Yes, my question. I am not even allowed to enter the home of my sister without knocking. I don't have a key. Why would she have a key? Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my mother-in-law to take care of my baby after she tried to breastfeed him? My husband and I both work full-time and we have a 2-month-old. My mother-in-law comes to our house every weekday and watches him for free while we work. We're on week 3 of this arrangement since I went back to work after maternity leave. It's very kind of her to do this for our family, and I appreciate it immensely. My baby is breastfed. I pump milk for her to give him during the day, and he gets milk right from the source on evenings and weekends. He loves nursing, and I do too. It's been a wonderful way for us to bond and a beautiful experience overall. Yesterday, while I was at work, I opened the baby monitor app on my phone to check and see if my mother-in-law was able to get him to take a nap in his crib. She had been texting me saying he was crying really hard, so she was thinking about just holding him for a nap. So I wanted to check and see if he was okay and if she ended up just holding him. When I looked at the camera, Mother-in-law was holding him, and she had her shirt up and he was latched on her breast. I was shocked and horrified. I called her right away, and she didn't answer. So I had to sit there and watch her attempt to breastfeed my baby. He was latched on, but obviously not getting any milk as my mother-in-law is not lactating. I called my husband at work, who eventually got a hold of her. Apparently, the baby was crying so hard, and that was the only thing she could think of to calm him down enough to sleep. She breastfed all 4 of her children when they were babies, and it always calmed them down enough to sleep. She was mad that I had checked the camera and told him it was an invasion of privacy. I don't want her watching my baby anymore. We can't afford a nanny or daycare. When I told my mother-in-law this, she freaked out and said I was being a witch, and she was just trying to calm the baby down and it wasn't a big deal. She says I'm taking her grandchild away from her and being unfair. My husband understands why I'm upset, but wants to give her another chance to watch the baby. He also doesn't want to spend the money to get a nanny or do daycare when she can care for our baby for free. Am I being unreasonable here? I'm so upset with her and just completely baffled at why she would do this that I never even want to see her again, let alone have her anywhere near my baby. I think I could possibly be the a-hole for checking up on her through the camera and also for not wanting her to watch my baby anymore, even though that would mean spending extra money and taking away something she really seems to enjoy doing. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. No normal human tries to breastfeed a child they're entrusted to look after. This is not healthy/sane behavior. I would be concerned that she has other issues. Her reaction is telling as well. Again, a normal human would be supremely embarrassed and apologize. She may be lashing out because she's embarrassed, but it's not acceptable for her to swear at you or gasp, be incensed that you used the baby monitor for its intended purpose. This is exactly right. Clearly, her mother-in-law's judgment cannot be trusted. I wouldn't trust mother-in-law alone with a baby in any capacity, and I definitely wouldn't trust her to provide daycare services. Mother-in-law crossed a boundary that should have been obvious. And why would she think latching the baby to her breast would calm the baby down? There's no milk. I find this so revolting. I think mother-in-law should be in timeout for a very, very long time. Mostly because I wouldn't be able to stomach seeing her if my mother-in-law did this. Not a-hole. I'm so shocked. Has she never heard of a pacifier? My mind would never go to breastfeeding another person's baby. I'd have a hard time facing her altogether. He won't take a pacifier. We've tried, but she could have tried giving him a bottle, and she didn't. Not a-hole. That is so beyond words inappropriate to me. WTF was she thinking? Her judgment is highly suspect. The fact that she defended herself by saying you invaded her privacy. And hello, she's watching your kid and shouldn't be doing anything that requires living room privacy at that point. And that she doesn't even consider what she did as wrong clearly means she's not capable of safely taking care of your child. I agree wholeheartedly with this post. I would definitely not consider unsupervised time with the little one for crazy grandma for the foreseeable future. That is your baby, not hers. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my mother-in-law to stop hanging out with our kids while our nanny's here? My husband is deployed and we are in the process of moving back to my home country. My mother and father-in-law are staying with us until we leave. When I'm at work, we have a nanny come to our house to take care of our 7 and 2-year-old kids. My in-laws are staying in a studio apartment under our house that has everything they need, with its own separate entrance. When I'm home, they hang out in our house, which I'm completely fine with. The problem is that my mother-in-law likes to hang out in our house while the nanny's here. She's only here max 7 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week. Our nanny said she's fine with mother and being around sometimes, but 7-year-old has virtual learning and gets very distracted and needs firm guidance. She feels like mother-in-law is distracting, and she also feels like she can't be as firm as she'd like with mother-in-law around. She did say that it's nothing mother-in-law has done, it's just her personal preference. She also mentioned behavioral issues because mother-in-law wants to intervene and throws off their routine. We came up with a slightly revised routine to allow for some time with mother-in-law while also giving them some privacy. I said something to mother-in-law. I just asked if she could let them have a little space while I'm not here because we try to have them have a similar experience to being in school or daycare with rules and routines. I let her know about the new routine plan, and she said okay. A little over a week after this talk, I asked our nanny how it was going, and she said nothing has changed, and mother-in-law now insists on being the first one to attempt to help 7-year-old with schoolwork. I said something to my mother-in-law again, and she became very defensive. Clearly, she didn't take the first talk as well as she led on. She said she didn't understand why it was an issue, and they were here to visit their grandkids that they may not see for another few years. Some other words were said, and unfortunately our FaceTime with my husband had to be cut short so he could talk to her. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. As a former nanny, family members being around makes everything so much harder. I applaud you for trying to resolve the situation. Mother-in-law needs to respect the given boundaries. Agreed. It was always my rule that I would not care for the kids if there was another adult in the house. So very many problems. I only had to be burned once to learn to stay away from that fire. Not the a-hole. Virtual learning is already not an ideal situation, and mother-in-law is making it worse by distracting her. Your nanny is 100% right in speaking to you about this because mother-in-law is essentially hindering your child's school. Not the a-hole. I used to nanny for a family with a set of twins, and the second a family member was around, it was like I lost all authority. It really does make the nanny's job much more difficult. You made a right call. Not the a-hole. Grandma's living a minute away, so she doesn't need extra time. Grandma visits her daily, so they now need to fit the daily routine. Hard stop if school is being disrupted and authority figures are being undermined. The family is moving to another country, so mother-in-law is trying to get as much as she can. And it sounds like Opie understands, as they adjusted the schedule to give her more. It's a shame mother-in-law isn't more appreciative. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law she's fat? My mother-in-law is a retired home economics teacher and extremely obese. I would guess she's 5 flat and 300 pounds. My kids and I are a little scrawny, but active and eat fairly well. Sometimes I allow them to have a soda when we go out to eat. Sometimes they don't eat their veggies or finish their meals. I'm half Asian, so believe me, my parents were the same flavor of, you best finish this food we earned for you. But they've chilled big time. They don't push their grandkids to finish or if they don't want to eat green beans. It ain't the end of the world. My mother-in-law lectured me to no end about nutrition and how she raised my husband and his siblings. Her daughter is also morbidly obese. I have said nothing until I finally lost it. I asked her if she honestly felt she was in a position to give me advice on eating. Her response made me feel bad. She said she understands nutrition but is an emotional eater, a food addict, as is her daughter. And my husband told me I shouldn't have said his mom was fat. Am I the a-hole? I feel like one, but then when I think of how much she lectures me, I feel justified. My mother lectured me to no end about nutrition. I would guess she's 5 flats and 300 pounds. Her daughter is also morbidly obese. It's just plain rude for her to lecture you about your eating habits or how you raise your own kids. Even if she was a healthy weight, she should keep her opinion to herself. Having a degree in home economics doesn't give her any authority to hand out and ask for advice and criticism of anyone's eating habits. Not the a-hole. Thank you. I may be the a-hole and I feel bad. Reading these comments helped me see her perspective. However, I have a limit on being treated like a moron. You are doing just fine the way you are raising your children and teaching them to have a healthy relationship with food. You aren't an a-hole to be annoyed by your mother-in-law criticizing your parenting. Is she getting therapy and guidance on how to handle her eating disorder? Is she getting help for her daughter? What makes your mother-in-law the a-hole isn't that she's overweight or has an unhealthy relationship with food. It's that she's got the absolute gall to lecture and criticize how you let your children eat food when they are a healthy, normal weight. She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Maybe she's remembering something she learned in a college course years and years ago and wants to present herself as a nutrition authority. But her and ask for lectures are ultimately tiresome, misguided, and pointless other than for her to stroke her own ego. You really are not an a-hole here. She needs to shut up about how you raise and feed your kids. No therapy. There's a lot of addiction in their family, as well as a lot of pridefulness. Thanks for getting it. A lot of it is that she's know-it-all and a busybody at my expense. So when I finally called her out, maybe in a thoughtless, terrible manner, but when I finally defended myself, she boohoos, and my husband's shaking his head at me for calling his mom fat. Everyone sucks here. I definitely understand why you were frustrated. It's rude to lecture people and their eating habits. Ultimately, I think a better way to go about this situation would be to first let her know you were confident in your ability to feed and nurture your family, and it makes you uncomfortable when she provides unsolicited advice. I think your response was a result of your frustration and maybe didn't come out in the kindest way. I think you should apologize for being insensitive, but make it clear that you would prefer she keep her thoughts on your family's nutrition to herself. Good luck. She should apologize to mother-in-law because obese mother-in-law with obese child is lecturing her on her children's nutrition and she had enough? No. Her mother-in-law should mind her own business if she can't handle her own health and not be trying to make her daughter-in-law feel bad for how she's raising her kids. She's not a hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they only have one daughter and she is 6 feet in the ground? Original story. This all started when I was 12 years old and my younger sister was 10. Let's call her Abby. Well, Abby started to get sick and no one in the family knew what was going on. I started to be dropped off at my grandparents as they went to different doctors. I'm not going to go into her illness, but when the doctor figured it out, it was bad. So a lot of time was devoted to my sister. When I was 14, it got worse and I started to be left at my grandparents for longer periods of time. It started with just staying the weekend and then maybe the whole week. I would bring it up and they told me that they have to focus on Abby. Soon, I was staying there for months, and by the time I was 16, I was basically living there full-time. I would maybe see them every other month. If I texted them the whole thing, the same response was always sent. We need to focus on Abby right now. I'm 19 now, and Abby has passed away from her illness. Her funeral was 2 weeks ago, and I attended through FaceTime. I got a call today from my parents, and they wanted to meet up and be a family again. I told them that they abandoned one child for another. I'm not their child anymore. That they only have one daughter and she is 6 feet under the ground now. I soon hung up. I've been getting texts calling me an a-hole and that I should understand that they needed to focus on Abby and to suck it up basically. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Was it harsh? Yes. Was it deserved? Also, yes. While I can sympathize with dealing with a terminally ill child, they still had another child that needed their love and attention too. A child that was losing her little sister, probably scared and lonely, and then freaking abandoned for 7 years. Yes, Abby needed them, but you did too, and they failed you miserably. And they failed Abby too, who might have enjoyed a relationship with her sister in the few years she did have to live. This is what I keep coming back to. It's unconscionably cruel to keep two siblings from spending time with each other while one is dying. I cannot imagine dying and not being able to have my sister around. This honestly brings tears to me. Not a a-hole. As a parent who had a terminally ill child, I made sure that my other kids still knew that I loved them, and even organized people to sit with my child in the hospital while I spent quality time with my other kids. It's hard being a parent, knowing that your child is going to die, but you don't ever push away your other kids. I'm so sorry that you were abandoned by your parents, and I'm sending you huge hugs and love right now. You have every right to be angry at them, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise, as none of them were in your shoes. Take time to grieve for your sister and your lost relationship. And most importantly, please be kind to yourself. You do matter. Not the a-hole. While having a seriously ill child is challenging and will often take priority, it doesn't give your parents license to simply send their other child away and stop parenting them. They abandoned you, and now that your sister has passed away, they want to rug sweep their behavior and play happy family. It's completely understandable that you do not want to have a relationship with them. Therapy may be beneficial for you to process losing your entire immediate family. They need to respect your boundaries. Sorry for your loss, and good luck. They're treating her like a book they left on the nightstand. Now, 7 years later, they want to pick it up and go, "All right, where did I live off?" You can't do that with people. And now for the update. So, it's been around a month since I posted the original post. Thanks to everyone that gave their input. So after the post, I wrote a very long letter explaining my feelings about how my parents treated me and how they abandoned me for 7 years. I talked about all the major events that they missed and all the years that I could have been with my sister but couldn't due to their decision. That I haven't been part of the family ever since Abby got sick all those years ago. I talked about how my grandparents are more parents to me than they have been in these past years. That no matter the reason, they discarded me and acted as if their other kid didn't need their parents. That you may have lost Abby recently, but I lost my whole family a long time ago. And that I'm not going to give an empty apology for what I said on the phone. I sent this letter and it was radio silent for a bit. And in the meantime, I went to my first on-campus college semester and started to use the free therapy. My parents contacted me and asked if I would like to get dinner and to hear them out. I agreed. It was a very long conversation that boiled down to I'm willing to try to get to know my parents again under 2 conditions, and if they don't agree with them, I'm going to walk away since they are basically strangers at this point. 1, that we start to go to family therapy. 2, that they don't try to parent me. That position is for my grandparents only, and I'm willing to try a relationship with them, but it won't be a parent-child relationship. They don't seem happy with these conditions, but accepted. We went to our first family session a few days ago, and our relationship is still rocky, but I think it is getting better. I may be able to forgive them someday, but that day is far in the future. Now for some top comments. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you are doing what you believe is best for you. Despite everything, you sense to have grown into a great person. Good luck, love. Indeed, Opie has grown into a good and mature adult because of her own innate personality and her grandparents' care. A lot of people would have fallen under the weight of their parents' abandonment, the mortality of their sibling, and other issues that crops up for most teenagers, or have turned into a spiteful person. However, Opie is making peace with everything and settling strong and reasonable boundaries with her egg and sperm daughters. So glad to hear it, Opie. Book recommendation: Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. It's not a replacement for therapy, but can help in a recovery of the loss of the parental relationship. Yes, I can recommend this book as well. My psychologist and I read it, and it helped me realize why my parents don't feel like parents, but more like brother/sister. I remember your original post, and it was so sad and broke my heart. It was also so mind-blowing. I don't know if it worked out entirely, but it's great to hear an update. A second one would be great too. I think it's good you're getting therapy personally just for your peace of mind. That's the most important. I do hope you can develop some sort of relationship beyond working with your parents. But the past does bear weight in the present and future, and it's unrealistic to just forget. Your feelings are valid, and it's good you're working through it for yourself. Hopefully, everything works out and they don't endanger any more of your emotional stability. The fact you're trying says a lot of good about you, and your parents' response says a lot less to me. In my opinion, parents who really care and probably aren't r/raised by narcissists wouldn't have this reaction and would do everything to make amends for their mishandling of the past. While I understand they were in a bind, they still handled their situation wrong and poorly in my opinion. Good luck, stay safe. Hope college/university works out well for you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for liking my stepdad but not my stepmom? I'll probably sound like a witch, but that's life. My 16 female parents, 36 female and 40 male, divorced when I was 12. In all honesty, their marriage was so sucky that it took me 6 months and my mother having to explain it twice for me to realize they were separating. And even then, I didn't particularly care. Important information: both my parents cheated and got together with their affair partners. Dad cheated during their entire marriage with different women, but my mom cheated with my current stepdad for a year before they divorced. This situation by itself sucks, but there's no use finding someone to blame when the fault lays on both of them, so I'll just present the issue. I absolutely hate my stepmom, 37 female. She's unpleasant to me whenever I'm around. Bossy, always trying to goad me into arguments so that when I lose my temper, she can go and cry to my dad that I'm being mean to her. If I didn't know that woman absolutely hates children, I wouldn't be surprised if she tried to get my dad have a do-over baby. As if that would work. Dad got a vasectomy after I was born. However, I really like my stepdad, 34 male. He's genuinely nice to me, balances that careful balance between not really trying to parent me, but still being a reasonable authority figure. Think like an uncle, and listens to me ramble about my hobbies without being judgmental. I also feel like the way they treat my parents actually matters in my perception of them. Stepmom treats dad like an ATM machine, but gets upset whenever he spends money on anything else. And stepdad treats my mom like she's the love of his life. And I don't know, I like seeing my mom so happy. My problem started on Father's Day. I made 2 posts on my Instagram where I honored both my dad and stepdad. Each of them had their own posts with different wordings to explain our relationships. Sometime later, I got a call from my dad making an issue out of it. Not because I made my stepdaddy post, but because when it was Mother's Day, I only posted my mother and not stepmom, and she felt excluded and unloved. I explained my reasoning, but I'm still getting crap over it to this day. And both my dad and stepmom are low-key pressuring me to make a post about her this year. I'm sick and tired of this, y'all. And I just want to know if I'm the a-hole here because I'm starting to wonder if I'm in the wrong. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You were allowed your feelings. You wanted to say something nice about your stepdad. You don't have anything nice to say about your stepmom. So you didn't say anything at all. You can probably change the custody agreement if there is one, because at your age, what you say should work out. They really can't stop you. Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. Write a letter with numbered points as to the crap your stepmom has been doing to you when you are around. Then remind your dad that you are the child and she is an adult. And if she is upset that she didn't get a shout out on Mother's Day, then she needs to read your points for the explanation. Do not give in, because she'll continue crying to her dad whenever you post or do something for someone else because you didn't do anything for her. Here is your mantra. No one is entitled to receive anything from you, whether it's a gift or a shout out on social media. Nah, forget the letter. Put the crap she does in a Mother's Day post she's so desperate for. The picture should be a nice wilted bunch of yellow roses, yellow for friendship, because she's thoroughly killed any desire Opie might have to be her friend. She should finish with, if you want me to care for you like I do my stepfather and make public posts about how great you are, you need to try being a decent human being to me. Maybe even try being nice to me on occasion. So, happy Mother's Day. I hope you like your post. Not the a-hole. You should record her secretly being mean to you and then post that on Mother's Day. Then anytime afterward, if you ever have to deal with her and she starts acting up, just say, sweet, more material for my next Mother's Day post. Or just generally malicious compliance of, my stepmother told me I needed to post about her this year for Mother's Day. She said, add whatever mean things she's most recently said, if I didn't part anything. And then write a really amazing one about your mom. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my husband for how he reacted to the news of my brother's death? My brother passed away 2 weeks ago. He was in the hospital for weeks. He was very sick. During that time, I was very stressed out and worried a lot. I was busy with work, the house, my son, and my brother. My husband works from home and I work long hours. When I got home from the hospital, I argued with my husband about an issue. Instead of talking to me like an adult, he suddenly stopped talking to me and started texting me saying, that way we can have a civil talk. He'd do it all day knowing I'm stressed out and don't have time for this. Whenever I ask him to do something or ask him about our son, he'd stay silent and type his response in text then send it to me. He only talks to our son and has taken over house chores, but he doesn't talk to me directly. I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel awful because at the time I really needed to talk to somebody and he was being unreasonable. I ignored him, thinking he'll quit doing it soon. 2 weeks ago, at 7 in the morning, I received a call from my mother telling me that my brother just passed away. It was an awful, devastating moment for me. I was in shock, but calm enough to give my husband the news. I told him my brother just passed away. He was still in bed at the time but was on his phone. His reaction was that he looked at me for a few seconds, then started typing on his phone. My phone was still in my hand when I received a text from him saying, I'm sorry, and that's it. Didn't speak to me even after hearing the news. I didn't expect to do that. I lost it. I blew up at him and I started crying. I called his behavior unreasonable, and his reaction to this devastating news was awful. I was hurt, and he finally spoke up and said that he's the one who's hurt, and that I shouldn't have blown up at him because it wasn't his fault my brother died. He then left the room. A few minutes later, he started knocking on the door, apologizing and trying to say he didn't mean to make me feel bad. I got ready and I went to my mom's house. He called and texted, but I didn't respond. My mom asked about him and told me I shouldn't lash out at him because that will never solve the issue. After I told her. Not the hole. At a moment to prove that he was your partner, there to support you in one of the worst moments of your life, he chose his wants and how he felt. Text him your divorce lawyer's number. This is horrifying. I lost a sister a few years ago. I was in shock for an hour or so after. Somehow, it wasn't until I called my boss to tell him I would be out of work for a while that it slammed down on me. I was in a gas station parking lot, on my way to my mom's. A woman pumping gas came over to me, asked if I needed help, and when I said my sister was dead, she embraced me and cried with me for several minutes. A complete stranger in a dark parking lot offered me more love and support than Nobi's husband. The man is a complete monster. I'm genuinely horrified at how he treats you. Your brother died, and instead of hugging you and giving you comfort of any kind, he freaking texted you right in front of your face? This would end my marriage. To be this petty after hearing about my brother's death is just cruel. I'm so sorry for your loss, and for the fact your husband is more interested in winning an argument with you than consoling you. Not a hole. Stonewalling is one of the greatest predictors of divorce. 1. Criticism. 2. Contempt. 3. Defensiveness. 4. Stonewalling. Yeah, I'd say Opie's husband is ticking each of the 4 horsemen of divorce pretty neatly. Not a hole. You dealt with his bizarre, thoroughly immature behavior for 2 weeks, and when he carried on with it at one of your most vulnerable moments, you couldn't hold back. I get it. I get it all day. I'm really sorry for your loss. I hope things at home get better soon. You can't be dealing with all that nonsense at the moment. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.